What's up, you guys? And of course, welcome to another alternative factuals video. So this one is not going to be particularly about any TV show or something that's on like an episodic basis or anything like that, but I do want to discuss some news regarding Doctor Strange 2 and some information we got from San Diego Comic-Con and all that stuff. And all this stuff you can read online in public information, but I'm just going to give you my spin on the information or just give you my opinions, and I'm going to want to hear yours at some point as well. But before I dive into any of that, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe, and leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think about the Doctor Strange movies. Let me know about the MCU movies. Just let me know your overall opinion and all that stuff. And without further ado, let's dive into this. Alright, so basically what we got from the San Diego Comic-Con is that the Sorcerer Supreme is officially going to be obviously making a return to the big screen, which a lot of us knew already because Doctor Strange was overall a good movie. But it also was revealed on Saturday that it's going to be Benedict Cumberbatch and basically the whole Cloak of Levitation and his world of the Doctor Strange multiverse, as well as the Scarlet Witch, are going to be combining and coming into the movie, which I guess is officially called Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And it's directed once again by Scott Derrickson, who helped create the first Doctor Strange movie. But this is where some of the information actually gets really interesting when it comes to the second installment of the film being a part of Phase 4. Now, from what we've also seen, it seems like they're going to go for more of a horror approach. Now, I made this point in a video a little while back. Obviously, I will try my best to link that video in the description down below, but I did say Doctor Strange was the best person to use as a horror kind of aspect and to introduce different aspects of the multiverse and the magical parts of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But for those of you who are confused on why Wanda Maximoff would be a part of this movie, is because she, like a couple other characters that have not yet been introduced into the MCU, does have magic. Now, people are confused. Maybe some of you are probably well aware by now, but Wanda Maximoff's powers are actually based off of chaos magic, and chaos magic is extremely powerful, but obviously in the MCU it's very much linked to her emotions. That's why if you saw Avengers Endgame, you pretty much saw that Thanos could not really do anything to her. He literally had to destroy half his army just so he can flex on Wanda Maximoff, because he could not do anything to her physically in terms of damage. Now, what makes this whole announcement cool, and besides the fact that the Scarlet Witch is going to be joining the events of this movie, is that the WandaVision on Disney Plus will actually feed into the Multiverse of Madness. So hypothetically, let's say if she's shooting for the show on Disney Plus, that whole WandaVision show, and basically her journey discovering her powers and the relationship between her and Vision, basically they're going to use information from that show to feed into this movie. So basically, if you watch the show, you absolutely probably would want to watch the second movie of Doctor Strange. So this is something I did touch upon in a few videos, where I feel like the TV shows are just basically a way for people to kind of take the little details of the MCU, basically what they do in between large events, and then the movies are basically continuations of these larger events. Basically, they're treating them like they're comic books, where you have the main events, then you have the tie-ins. And Marvel Comics is hilariously known for their tie-ins when it comes to their comic books. So that's basically how I'm going to identify this. You have the tie-ins, and then you have the main events, in which are taking place with various different characters, and they're going to involve a lot of the characters that we've known in terms of the last 10 years of the MCU regarding these events. Now, in terms of information, that's all we pretty much know, for at least for now. But what I want to discuss so much is what might happen during this movie in the whole Multiverse of Madness, or Doctor Strange and relationship between Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch. So let's dive into this. Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch are not strangers to each other. Obviously, Doctor Strange being the Sorcerer Supreme, being the supreme being of magic for the Earth realm in this dimension, and then Scarlet Witch, who has been on multiple occasions extremely powerful and had the power of Chthon, was able to initiate the whole House of M event, as well as wiping off like a huge chunk of mutants off the planet of the Earth. So, well, not even just the Earth, throughout the multiverse, actually through several universes. So that's definitely something interesting by itself. But let's stick to the MCU version. They do have a relationship in the comics, but what I feel is going to happen in this kind of movie is that it's going to continue to explore her powers, but I'm going to also think that well, I dare to even say that they're probably going to explore a lot more about her abilities, where you're going to see like, okay, yes, she has chaos magic, but where does this magic come from? What is the origin of chaos magic? And then ultimately we will dive into this aspect of the magical realm itself. Remember, you do have, different alternate timelines, different Earths, but at the same time you have different dimensions. Now, Asgard does exist in a pocket dimension within a certain universe, and that's why every different universe has their own Asgard. Like the primary Earth in Marvel Comics 616, they have Asgard as well. Then you have the Ultimate Universe 1610, they have their own Asgard as well, and so on and so forth. So basically, this movie is going to explore a lot of those dimensions with these mystical creatures, which would include Dormammu, who is a very powerful being in his own right. And you're going to see a lot of these dimensions and see how powerful either these other dimensional beings are, or the type of chaos that these dimensions bring if they bleed into the main Marvel universe at any point in time for any given amount of time. So this is basically what this film is about. It's kind of introducing certain aspects of the MCU that we didn't quite get, because the whole Infinity Saga didn't too much explore the magical aspect. They introduced the character because yes, he was relevant, he had one of the Infinity Stones, cool, no problem. But what makes this more compelling is that they're going to dive into, okay, let's see what Doctor Strange does, let's see what Wanda Maximoff does. They're going to start tying people, well, more like pairing people up, or putting them together with other people who are very similar, like-minded in terms of how they operate and move when it comes to the next phase of MCU movies. Think about it. You have the Winter Soldier and you have Sam Wilson. Both of them served in the military. Both of them were part of very experimental aspects of, the government in some way, shape, or form. Sam Wilson was a part of that whole Falcon program where they had the wings because he wasn't a regular paraglider. At the same time, you had Bucky Barnes, even though it was against his will, he still somehow was a part of the Russian government and the Soviet Union creating the whole Winter Soldier program. So they both were heavily involved in very experimental programs in various different ways, and they kind of do suit each other in more ways than one. The same way how Wanda Maximoff and Doctor Strange suit each other as well, because their powers are not only similar, but the origin and the nature of their abilities do fit each other, as well as the origin of those abilities, where did it come from, and so on and so forth. Now I'm going to try and keep this video about 10 minutes or maybe a little under, so that way we can kind of just, I want to keep you going about your day. I don't want you to be stuck here all day. But my last thoughts. Now, Doctor Strange has always been a very interesting character in terms of his abilities. I'm not going to pretend like, the older comics, they made him way too powerful, and it was extremely hard to tell very compelling stories, especially, before a certain point. I think it was the 1970s or 80s, one of those. Don't quote me on it, but I am absolutely sure that at one point he had absolutely way too much power. He was literally able to do anything, and then he had his power stripped away by the Vishanti. But moving on along, I think this kind of will explain the relationship between magic and the real world, but also we'll kind of get to see how Doctor Strange kind of copes with these magical entities and the responsibility of being Sorcerer Supreme. And he still has other people who are, I guess teaching, or he's supposed to be teaching under the tutelage of himself and Wong, simply because there are other people out there who have the ability to access magic and train and do various different things in order for them to combat these magical forces that exist in these alternate dimensions. So I think it's going to be a very fun as well as interesting, but what makes this even more compelling is that this is going to be written as more of a horror kind of feel. So because we're getting this information, it's going to be written in a very realistic way. Magic is not always lucky go, super bright and, fun and oh my god, like there's bunnies everywhere, like oh my god. No, it's not always like that. Magic can be very scary, and they did explore that in one of the more recent Doctor Strange runs, where basically he explained that magic has a price, and that price must be paid in one way or another. And then in order for him to try and avoid that price best ways possible, he was storing that basically negative energy, or those dark magics, or whatever you want to call it. I really don't know what it was called. It was just like basically this big black blob of whatever it was, and basically it was a physical manifestation of the prices that he never paid in terms of spells. So I think they're going to explore that aspect too, where magic has a price. Everything has a price. You can't use magic and just not pay anything. Every time you cast a spell, every time you have to, time travel, every time you have to use the bands of Sidorak, every time you have to, use different variations of magic. It comes from somewhere and a price must be paid, whether it be physically, emotionally, you know, whatever it may be, it has to be paid. And I think they're going to dive into that. And Wanda has to understand that as well, because even though she's using this power, and I mean, since the introduction of her abilities and her character alone, she has just been using her powers like unlimitedly, like she's had no cap, and her powers have just been continuously growing and increasing on an exponential rate. And then I think she needs to understand that her abilities do come at a price, and that she needs to be wary of how she uses her powers and how much of it she uses in, you know, a day-to-day basis. But let me know what you think about this. This is just me spitballing based on, you know, the information I've read in comic books, as well as what I think is going on based on the title, you know, the Multiverse of Madness, and, you know, based on the genre that they're going about. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. And if you're new to the channel, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe. Leave your comments down below, and I hope to see you later on. Peace out.